What's good, family? Smash the like button and subscribe. So, my dog, Anthony, the Tyson Fury chaser, Joshua, has made some comments on his feelings on Tyson Fury's antics as it pertains to the future prospects of this fight, which, by the way, should be taking place really in Q4 or Q1 next year. When you actually look at the numbers, it's not that far away. If Tyson Fury doesn't live up to his namesake and doesn't go scary and doesn't go Fury, really, we're not that far away. 6 months. That's the truth of it. But guess what? Anyone who knows a lick about anything knows that we may as well be a million years away, because Fury ain't never going to do it. I'll tell you why he's not, because Wilder and Fury are going to have 7 fights, back to back to back. Or, tell a lie, maybe there'll be some bums sprinkled in between, but for the main, in terms of, as far as top 5 opponents go, I've heard it on solid authority, Wilder and Fury have signed a 7-fight deal, consecutive, with bums sprinkled in. Yeah, with sprinkly bums in there, no doubt, 100%. So anyway, let's get to what AJ's actually said then. So, this comes by way of Eddie Hearn. We know Eddie Hearn loves his anecdotes. I just spoke to AJ yesterday, obviously. He said the following. AJ felt they never really wanted to fight. He never felt like Fury wanted to fight. AJ, in his head, probably thinks the fight will never happen. However, I, Eddie Hearn, would like to be more hopeful, and I think it will happen. If AJ smooths out Alexander Usyk's and Fury knocks out Wilder, then in 4 months' time we are talking about an even bigger fight. However, one could lose or look bad, but I do get the feeling if they both win, then the fight is huge. I am hoping it works out for the best. So there you go then. AJ ain't got... Listen, to be fair to AJ, I've always said that he should be more vocal about the things that have been going on. Now, this last little escapade, this last little goofy Fury.com that happened, where Fury, obviously, as we know now, Fury didn't want no problems for 6 months. It's amazing, how short people's memories are, because all everyone gets caught up in, oh yeah, look, Eddie Hearn, Team AJ must have known about the arbitration. In doing so, they completely ignore what happened over the last 6 months. They act as if, YB, AJ ordered the Fury fight in December 2020, and Fury signed in January 2021. Like a month. You forget that the arbitration was the last of our worries. Arbitration happened in May? What happened to the 6 months before that, where Fury was making all kinds of excuses, counting down, no word of a lie. Fury in the last 2 weeks has since had the audacity to actually say that, I kept giving Team AJ deadlines and they kept missing them. I swear, I kid you not. Tyson Fury, responding to some of the claims that AJ obviously doesn't believe he wants to fight, has said, Anthony, you're lying, Anthony, I give you deadlines, So he's saying that, what do you mean? So Fury's basically saying that, how can AJ or Eddie Hearn question my willingness for the fight? I gave them loads of deadlines and they missed them. What planet are these people on? You mean Fish Eyes, Bob Arum and yourself just sat there, trolling, essentially, or trolling yourselves? Because I'll tell you what's going to happen. You're going to end up like Wilder, Fury. If you're not careful, you're going to end up like Wilder. Meaning, you've thrown away a $100 million fight for a $5 million fight, and you get filled in. Let's not forget that. And I've got a good feeling, from what I'm hearing, Fury's going to get smoked in this fight. That's what I'm hearing, truth be known. I'm hearing Fury's going to get smoked. Why? Because that sets up the 7-fight consecutive trilogy. Sorry, the triple trilogy. The 9-fight deal. That's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing, in order for this 9-fight deal to come true, obviously it makes sense now for Fury to lose, and that there in itself brings out another 3 fights. Doesn't it? Think about it. They had a draw, so that's 0-0 essentially. Fury's only won 1. So if Wilder wins another, that's still back to 0-0. So again, that there means another 3 fights. That's a 6-fight deal there. No doubt. So you best believe I'm hearing Wilder's going to win this next one, and that sets up another 3 fights. Just off that one win. All Wilder has to do, or all they have to do, is fix this Wilder win somehow. Either Fury will dive on the floor, like Ortiz, like Brazil, like Malik Scott, or it will be some other thing where, I don't know, either way. That's what I'm hearing. Yeah? So please don't, all you goofy cats, YB, the AJ fight going to happen versus Fury. No. What we do know is going to happen, there's going to be a triple trilogy of Wilder and Fury. 7, 9 fights, something like that. Between 6 and 9 fights is what I'm hearing. Because you best believe as well, what's happening next is, Fury's already laid he's already laid what would you call it? He's already put the feelers out there, saying things like, Ali versus Fraser. Trying to make out that a trilogy is what makes it amazing. Fury was saying today, or in the last week, Wilder and Fury is the first trilogy, the first heavyweight title, the first heavyweight major trilogy in the last 30 years. Ali, Fraser and Norton, I don't know. He was basically putting out all the names, and Holyfield versus Lewis, putting all the names out there, like kind of alluding to the fact that having a trilogy in itself makes it valuable. As if people care about how many times. Because it's 3 fights, that makes it special. No one gives a F about how many fights it is. They want to see the quality. Now, to be fair to both of them, Wilder and Fury, in terms of quality, this is quite intriguing. Because if Fury was still running around the place, then yeah, I'll be bored to tears. But it's going to be interesting. Can Wilder come back? Is Fury going to stick it on him again? So I'll give him that. But the point is, that could have waited. Wilder weren't going nowhere. If Fury had jumped on AJ, and let's not forget this, again, people have very short memories, please don't forget this, AJ ordered it in December, and in fact, AJ even said to Eddie Hearn, Eddie, get this done, let me tell you again, get this done by the end of December. And I remember being kind of playing devil's advocate and actually saying, AJ wants it done by December, but I'll give him till mid-January, is what I said. As if I was, you know what I'm saying, mid-January, thinking I was actually being generous and saying, you know what, I'm going to give AJ another 2 to 4 weeks extra. Just kind of extra top-up time. Top-up time? Top-up time? What are you playing? How about June? How about June and still goofy bits coming around? And 2-2s, 3 days before the arbitration result comes in, all of a sudden, Fury's bouncing all on social media. It's signed. I want AJ. Giving it all that he was. And then obviously 2-2s, as we know, not even a bit did it get signed. Yeah? Which takes me back to the point I was about to make. People forget AJ ordered it in December. If Fury had jumped on it, this fight was due to be in like April, May. Do you understand that? This fight was due to be, AJ and Fury was due to be before the arbitration result. No joke. I swear to you. If you actually follow the history of it, if Fury hadn't fannied around for 6 months and acted scary, the fight was due to be in April, May, was the dates they was talking about. They could have ran in, nicked in and done it quickly before the arbitration result even got back. They could have done. He didn't want to do that. He didn't even want to try and do that because he didn't want no smoke. Yeah, he didn't want even a bit of smoke. So let's not please get... Fury likes to keep everyone focusing on stuff that's purely irrelevant. Absolutely, not even a bit of relevance does it have, the arbitration. Because for the arbitration to be relevant, the fight would have actually had to have been signed in the first place. And my whole thing is, guess what? If Fury wasn't able to put pen to paper after 6 months, when will it ever get done? Like, this has put Manny Pacquiao and Mayweather to shame. They never spent 6 months in negotiations, ever. Never did they spend that long. And then, by the way, not to get it done as well. 6 months negotiating and didn't get it done. Wow. But the problem is, a lot of you Fury goofies, well, they can't be... After Fury's PR disasters of the last few weeks, you Fury fans are going out bad right now. He got you man down bad right now. You're going out all the way sad, supporting this melt. Yeah? Don't no one want to see this Wilder fight. That Wilder fight, guess what should have happened? Another key thing here, people would love to skip over. YB, you just said that it's quite intriguing because Wilder's coming off a loss and we want to see if Fury's going to come forward again. Guess what? Boxing fans deserved that last year. That's what you know what I'm saying? Meanwhile, Dana White was putting on his fake WWE 2.0 shows. Yeah. Meanwhile, Dana White was putting on his smoked by a YouTuber shows. Fury should have put on the boxing fight, which at the time, aka June, July last year, that would have been hot. That's when I wanted to see that fight. Instead, we're getting it a year later, and who even knows if we're going to get it a year later? You know what I'm saying? Because I hope we do, but from what I'm hearing, we got all these other goofy bits. Injury, delay. It feels a bit too good to be true for me. For this to have been signed so quickly, and 8 weeks later we're in the ring. I hope so. And fair play. This, in terms of credibility, if Fury pulls off this Wilder fight and actually does it, this will add to his credibility, because he has none for me in terms of actually doing these kind of deals. I remember this for me feels just like the Vlad fight did, the Vlad rematch. I mean, just like that it was. I remember several times the Vlad rematch was on, and it was like, oh wow, only 6 weeks to go until it's on, and then the next thing you know, there'd be some goofy stuff going on within the last 2 to 4 weeks before the fight was supposed to be. Oh look, yeah, Vlad versus Fury 2, the rematch. It's on in 8 weeks. Whenever them quick ones come through out of nowhere, at least when it comes to Fury's career, they rarely materialise. There's always something. Oh, my leg, my ankle, something goofy goes on. But anyway, I've digressed. Back to the AJ points. AJ don't believe in Fury. All I hope is, from AJ's point of view, is don't give these guys no privacy. What you'll notice is, if you haven't already, look at how Frank Warren and Bob Arum have been acting over the last 6 months. What have they been doing for the first times in their career? For the first time in their career, Bob Arum, Fish Eyes have been, be quiet, Eddie. Eddie, why are you talking so much? These guys never shut their mouths. They love to talk. All of a sudden, for the biggest fight in the world, where really there should be more talking than ever. Isn't it? Like, do you want the fight or not? I never understood that. Who cares? If two men want the fight, what does it matter who says what or when? Isn't it? You either want it or you don't, and that's the problem here. That there was another tell for me. The way that Fury's team were number one, what did we know? Fury's team, they were all, like, what was it? They was all magically coordinated. John Fury, Tyson Fury, Fish Eyes. Everyone was singing off the same hymn sheet. Oh, we can't do it. Oh, it's regulations. Oh, it's C19. I've never seen them 5 people all of a sudden saying exactly the same thing, word for word, again and again and again, like a broken clock. Yeah, whirring, no doubt. That was the first goofy sign. Why are these guys reading off a script? I'll tell you why. Because they'd all sat down and said, listen, we're not doing this AJ fight. However, we must manage the PR disaster. Because we best believe we look like a PR disaster right now. The fact we ain't giving the fans the fight we want, and the fact we're going to give them a triple trilogy with Wilder instead. Yeah, we're going to roll out a blown up cruiserweight whose whole career has been based on fixed fights. Malik Scott, Luis Ortiz, Dominic Brazil, all just jumped on the floor. Yeah, no doubt. You can watch it yourselves if you don't believe what I'm saying. Don't take my word for it. Watch the tapes. All of them 3-man jumped on the floor. In fact, another one. What's his name? What's that goofy Don's name? Oh, wow, I can't believe I forgot his name. Areola fought him. Bumain, that's it. Bumain Stavern. Bumain Stavern dived on the floor, did he not? Quickly, check this out. Bumain Stavern. What happened, yeah, when Bumain Stavern turned up to win? Wilder went 50-50 with him. Next fight. What happens then when he's paid off? Dives on the floor. Malik Scott, paid off, dives on the floor. Luis Ortiz. The first fight, probably give it a go to be fair, the first fight. Second fight, dived on the floor after winning the first 4 rounds. After schooling him for 4 rounds. Decides to dive on the floor. Dominic Brazil dives on the floor. That's as simple as that. His whole career, and the worst thing is, and it kind of makes sense to an extent why Wilder picked these middle-level dons, because the top-level people like Dillian White, they won't dive on, it's not worth it to them. Dillian White's thinking, why am I going to take 100 grand from you to dive on the floor when beating you is going to make me millions? So that doesn't work. That's why Wilder has to fight these middle-level desperate people. And that's why, hence Ortiz. Ortiz, his daughter's ill. He's gonna, you know what I'm saying? Anyone who's got a sick daughter, they're in a great position to be bribed. Oh, your daughter's ill. If you want, you know what I'm saying? If you want to help her out, here's 100 grand, dive on the floor. I'm not being funny. Luis Ortiz is the most susceptible person to being bribed. Not his fault, but it's just the way it is. Luis, you want an extra 300 grand? Make sure you dive on the floor after schooling me for the first 4 rounds. Don't make no sense. Malik Scott, another one. Goofy. Dived on the floor. So that's how his whole career's been built. And Fury loves it. Fury thinks, oh yeah, because anyone who beats Wilder, you get something for nothing. You get to beat this man who looks really scary to people who don't know that he's paid everyone to dive on the floor. You know what I'm saying? Because let's not forget, people have been running around boxing for the last 5 years saying, oh, he's the biggest. To be honest, it's one of the biggest travesties of the last 10 years. The way people rant and rave about Wilder's power. No one ever lie. People say, the general narrative today is, apart from the YB, even, not being funny here, even AJ supporters will say things like, yeah, Wilder's the biggest puncher in the world ever. And how has he proved that? Oh, did he prove that by not being able to stop Tyson Fury, Mr. Chinless, twice? How can you be fighting one of the most chinless heavyweights in the world, Tyson Fury, and not stop him and have the biggest right hand in history? It's a contradiction. It's absolutely impossible. We saw Steve Cunningham, who wasn't a big puncher at cruiserweight, put him down. And that sums it up. A non-big puncher at cruiserweight did exactly the same thing that Wilder did to Fury. Put him down. That's the extent of Wilder's power. Wilder has the power of a not-so-great cruiserweight. Steve Cunningham. Exactly the same kind of punchers. Yeah? The difference is Steve Cunningham didn't have the Cabal backing him. Yeah? They didn't have the pockets to keep paying people off. To build up. Think about the investment here. These Cabalers, these organisations, it's a business move. Wait there, okay, Wilder, he looks athletic. His IQ's not smart. He's not so smart, so he's easily, like these people, they're easily, what's the word? They're easily brought into trances, which means that mind controls, people like Wilder who have low intelligence and low consciousness, all you have to do, it doesn't take long to put him under. He goes into trances real easy, which means that he can be mind controlled real easy. That's what they want. Wilder is the Manchurian boxer. Yes, bring Wilder in. He's athletic. He's stupid. Get him under mind control, and then just wheel him out against paid-off opponents who dive on the floor. Malik Scott. Again, I'm not going to read out the names. You've seen them all. And by doing that, by paying people off and fighting bums, they've been able to create an artificial, quote, biggest puncher in history. Do you understand that? In 5 years of fighting nobodies, and the people he did fight, he paid off. He's taken all them great boxers, George Foreman, Mike Tyson, whoever, and people are now saying Wilder's a bigger puncher than them. Can you believe it? But that's the point. Out of pure thin air, they've created an individual like Wilder, which is a pure business transaction. Because what? They may have paid people $1 million for payoffs, and now look. You know what I'm saying? Look at the money they can cash in on. Where they went wrong is, they thought that the Wilder and Fury fight, the 539 Cabal, they thought the Wilder and Fury fight was going to be an easy win, and therefore the AJ Wilder fight, which after that would happen, would be worth $500 million. That's what they was waiting out for. They was gambling for a $500 million fight. That's what they was waiting out, I believe. They were, don't get me wrong, I do believe they were going to cash Wilder in eventually, but they was waiting for the... Winkle said it himself. Winkle already told us the Cabala's plan. They said, we want $400 million for this fight. And that's where they went wrong, unfortunately. They overplayed they thought that Fury was more shot than he was. Yeah? But back to my original point, which was that Fury better be careful here. Because, guess what? Wilder did exactly the same thing as him. Overplayed it. Thought, oh yeah, I'll go and beat Wilder and then I'll get the $100 million. Oops. Because if Fury gets beat like I think he might do, now look at you. Everyone's the whole shine of the event. The AJ versus whoever is only really shiny if it's Fury who wins. Because if it's not, it's just a bunch of dudes who have lost to each other, innit, at that point, kind of thing. Innit? Think about it. If Fury loses to Wilder, not only does that mean they're going to have about 3 more fights back to back, it also means that allure of it, everyone's lost to everyone already. So where's the big allure? There's no best man versus best man. We know AJ is the best of the WBA, WBO and IBF lot. If Fury loses to Wilder, then Fury's just, isn't it? That they're in themselves, they're not even undisputed. There's not. If Fury loses to Wilder, there won't be an undisputed WBC champion. It will just be messy. The WBC title holder will be a messy champion. Isn't it? It will just be whoever gets it on the day, which isn't really the point of an undisputed champion. An undisputed champion is someone who 9 times out of 10 will win. Well, if Wilder smokes Fury, Fury clearly hasn't beaten no one 9 times out of 10. So hopefully for Fury's sake and for the undisputed fight's sake, Fury wins this. But again, even if he did, still don't mean, back to AJ's original point, does that mean Fury beats Wilder? Does that mean he's gonna fight AJ? I guess one thing we can conclude is that it's still, Fury has to win to make this fight even a little bit possible. Even a little bit. For this fight, for AJ and Fury to be even a little bit possible, Fury must win. If he loses, it's off, in my mind. It's not going to happen. Because, guess what? Fury don't have the belt, so that Fury won't have a belt. Now, will AJ fight Fury without no belt? Maybe if he's desperate. If Wilder goes walkies, he probably will fight him anyway. But listen, it's messy. And I've got a feeling how the Cabal works, yeah? How these goofy dons work. I've got a feeling that's what's going to happen. Because Fury and Wilder are more than happy to have an excuse not to have to fight AJ. Think about it. What's the best way, yeah? Let's assume for a second I'm right. Let's assume for a second that Wilder and Fury really are scary of AJ. What would be the best way, whilst remaining productive? For example, Fury and Wilder could run off and just retire and hide out. That's not being productive, but what's the best way for them two fighters to remain productive and remain active, but avoid AJ, but without kind of bringing attention to themselves, that they're actively ducking? Oops. Wilder wins. And then, in doing so, creates another 3 fights. Because if Wilder wins, as I've explained earlier, that means they're all level. They've had to draw the first fight, Fury's got one, and Wilder's got one. They're all level. There's another trilogy set up. Boom, sorted. That's what's going to happen. Wilder will win, and then their man are tied up for another 3 fights. And AJ's just standing there. But thankfully, AJ's now at the point where it's kind of finally, after 2 years of the YB trying to tell him, he's finally getting the picture now. These goofies don't want it. And therefore, AJ needs to focus on his own career and building fake champions. Just do what they've done. Yeah? And the first one where in my opinion, where AJ should have started would be with Joe Joyce and Usyk. Them two should be fighting for the WBO belt right now, in my opinion. But AJ, unfortunately, is too much of a smoky don. He don't know what's good for him. I think they should take the belt, take the WBO belt, and I'll come back round and get it off one of you mans. Create artificial champions. You know what I mean? Give them a shot. It's almost like Alvarez does. I think Alvarez has done it before. He takes a belt and then gives it back. Because it's no good fighting people with no belts. Like for example, AJ versus Usyk now, he has no belt. It's worthless, essentially. What's the point? Like, you have to, that's the reason Alvarez goes around collecting belts, because rightly or wrongly, human psychology and pay-per-views, that's how it works. People want to know you've got a belt, or you're taking a belt holder. AJ, yeah, by having to fight Joe Joyce with no belt, Usyk with no belt, which is the way it's looking, you're just doing heavy lifting for relatively small reward. You'd be surprised. I've done the maths. It works out with a belt, yeah. Someone like Usyk would be you can add 60 to 80% pay-per-views just from having a belt. So for example, if AJ and Usyk will probably do 1 million on its own, Usyk with a belt will be doing 1.6 or 1.8 million. If you want the evidence on that, look at Joseph Parker. AJ was fighting Povetkin for 900,000. Fought Parker, who weren't much of a much bigger name. At that point, no one even knew Parker. He hadn't even fought in the UK, I don't believe. And Parker did 1.8 million. So he doubled Povetkin, doubled Takam, just from having a belt. So that's what I think, from a business point of view, that's what's business smart. But if you want to be just fighting the best and not bothered about the reward on it, that's why you fight. That's why AJ's fighting Usyk now, because he's not trying to maximise revenue. He's just trying to beat the best ones there. And that's what he has to do from now on, because these other goofies, If Wilder beats Fury, it's game over. Certainly for the next 2-3 years it is. And then we get to do the whole... Let's not forget this as well. What I found very odd about all of these characters on the WBC side is how they've all had this narrative, even Wilder included. Wilder's team were the original ones to say, oh yeah, Mayweather Pacquiao, 400 million. That's what they started saying that. When AJ was offering 120 million, their party line was 400 million Mayweather Pacquiao. And then all of a sudden, about 2-3 months ago, I hear Tyson Fury start mentioning it. Oh yeah, Tyson Fury started saying, oh, Pacquiao, oh, Mayweather this, Pacquiao that, and 400 million. I thought, what is it? What is this? Yeah, you know, Tyson Fury was saying, oh, the longer you wait, the bigger the fight gets, Mayweather Pacquiao. Now, it could be coincidence, but it seems to be them WBC Cabal, they seem to be trying to wait for this big $400 million fight. And what do we know? That $400 million Mayweather Pacquiao fight had nothing to do with age, had nothing to do with prime. Do you understand? That Mayweather Pacquiao, unfortunately, set the precedent that the longer you wait, the bigger it gets, bottom line. That's what people took from that. Even though we don't actually know how much it would have done. Actually, even though we don't really know how much it would have done in their prime, the point is, the inference is, their man was 38, 39 years old. And AJ's only 31, so really, I'm talking about 2-3 years. They could be waiting 5-6 years for this fight. So who knows? Anyway, you've heard that from AJ. He don't believe the fight can happen. I'll give you man all the exclusive information and let me know your thoughts, and no doubt